everyone. So my name is Amanda. I work as executive coordinator to Jeff Clanegan at Laugh Out Loud Network. A little bit about my background. So originally I came from a theater background. I thought I was going to do theatrical producing, but I quickly pivoted to the digital space and to like film and television because I wanted to reach a more global audience, also a more youthful audience, also a more diverse audience for Black and Brown people and people of color and women. So that's how I kind of made my pivot from theater to the digital and television and film space. I went to Howard University for their film school after I went to George Washington University, where I got my undergrad in theater. And then from there, it's just been a whirlwind. A lot of programs that helped me are programs that are kind of like the one that we're talking about right now. I went through Academy Gold, which is really great for students coming up, and it helps connect them to different opportunities in the industry and shows you all the different opportunities that you can have. I also participated in HBCU in LA. I've also participated in just like various different types of internships, just getting my hands dirty. Experience is the key, because as much as our education matters, as much as they want to see a great GPA, they want to see that you know how to get your hands dirty, that you have tangible work experience. So that's my advice to any student trying to get into the game. And outside of that, with Laugh Out Loud Network, my journey here honestly was just from a referral because, again, networking, interning, hands-on, and pretty much I was looking for my next step after Disney because I was working at Disney for 2 years on the studio side with theatrical. And a mentor of mine was just saying, hey, I hear that you're looking. I know you're really passionate about works that are really geared towards, Black people. This is LOL. This is what they're doing with Kevin Hart's company. He's serious. It's not just about Kevin. He's trying to make this a company that lasts outside of him. And he really is trying to keep the world laughing and trying to really look at comedy from our perspective. He has a plan. I interviewed. Jeff and I were very much like-minded. He's more of an introvert. I'm an extrovert. So that's the difference between us. But that's how I arrived here. So the purpose of this call is really to see the type of questions you want to ask Jeff, how he can be useful, like what do you see in terms of these type of structure of this? I've heard a little bit about it in the beginning, so I'll kind of let you guys guide it from here.
Okay, great. I have one question for you before I introduce you to the students.
Sure.
Can you share with us who the referral was? Because I think I know who it was, if you were HBCU in LA.
Actually, it was Tamara Gregory. She worked as head of development. No, I think you might be talking about Stacey Milner, who was an amazing human being. She's fabulous. And literally, I was here in LA, I didn't know a soul, and she was doing HBCU in LA, and one of my friends was in it, and my friend invited me one night, and she said, why don't you just come back for all the nights? Like, you shouldn't be alone in LA if you don't know anybody. And then I found my community. So Stacey's a wonderful human being.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is definitely a plug for Executive Tim, Stacey, and Ted Milner. They've been wonderful in trying to help us, guide ourselves through the process of getting community college students in Los Angeles, and again, in people from the four-year university in the state of California, because they have an inherent advantage. They're already here. They don't need housing. They don't need a lot of stuff to get here. They're already here. So we've got to make sure that they take advantage of the hometown, situation. So what I want to do now, Terrence, before you leave, do you have any questions? Because I have some more introductions, but this is really important for you. Do you have any questions of Amanda based on what you heard?
So what I would say is there, anything particular that the students could focus on that is also the story that Jeff's looking to tell, right? Because in the end, if they can key on the story he's looking to tell, our questions, if they're focused that way, you're going to get a lot more out of it, right? Because he's new, he's the head. Like, I know him from Code Black. I mean, I've followed Jeff for 20 years, so in the space. But yeah, what would you tell them that might matter to him, if you know?
Very good point.
So what I would say is that, because that's a great question, because the more focused we can be, the better, because we want to maximize time in this experience. I would say when it comes to questions, so in terms of structure, Jeff is best when you ask him just direct questions. Like, he might give a brief intro, but basically what would be helpful for this conversation is that if we have a moderator, that's one, to help guide the conversation, also allow the students to ask questions. As much as he can see of the different students in this format, the better. And then in terms of asking questions, I would say really do your research on Jeff, because he's really been in the lexicon of like Black culture, and I'm even getting to know the deep different levels of that. And also he really wants to make sure that he's providing value of how you can leave from the conversation and get a job or get an internship or level up or use branding. So definitely speak with him about how you can really get that internship and get that next entry level job. Also how to use and maximize social media and marketing, because he's really much an expert at that. I would definitely pick his brain in that regard. And then also just ask them about the business side, because that's really where the strength lies, right? Like, how can I figure out the business side of television? How can I figure out the business side of social media? How can I figure out the business side of film? He knows all of three of those areas very well. And he's also like one of the founders of the DVD business, which I know is like very old to like some of us, but like it was kind of like predating what we're doing with streaming today. So he's really great in distribution. So if you lean in those areas or just focus on like the business side of marketing, social media, and film, that's where I would say lean in.
So, and then the piece I picked up from what you said there, and it's really true. You know, the reason Jeff spent 20 years in the business is because, one, Black content would not get distributed otherwise. He had films, and he really went out on his own in order to make that happen, which meant he had to learn through hard knocks how to get the distribution for content none of the big guys would take. And by the same way, since he was successful, he built his own, right? Almost out of being forced to. And I think that's a unique value proposition, just so all you guys have the context on, you know, what that means. So he would know the terms. He would understand, you know, how the big studios work, what kind of distribution matters, right? What's the threshold for a title? And then certainly the value of social media, if you're independent, means you're driving to your own distribution. So there's a margin in doing that, right? The big boys are not necessarily going to worry about moving 100,000 titles, but if Jeff were to move directly 100,000 titles, it's profitable. So just understand those business elements, because I think that's really key in getting the knowledge from a guy like Jeff.
Right. And then I would just also add on, just for students, because a lot of us, when we get into this, we think about the creative side. Like, this is a time where you want to ask the case study about your creative idea, and he'll be able to really say, or ask the question of you, like, what's the business model? Like, this is a time where you can really case study with them. So take advantage of a case study energy. Like, if you have an idea and you're trying to figure out the business model, how to make it a reality, bring that case study here, because that's more of a tangible question than just saying, oh, how did you get started, right?
Great. And Amanda, I have a couple of people who are going to ask questions of you, because part of our process is not only to get Jeff to share with us some of the things that he'd like to share, initiatives, as well as, again, focused milestones of his career. But we also would like to know a little bit more from our student perspective. We really want to know a little bit more about how is it to work outside of the Laugh Out Loud culture. And maybe some of the things that students can glean would come from this interview or from this session, a way for them to get better at understanding, you know, again, from that level of peer to almost peer, because you're definitely, again, kind of in the realm of some of the ages of some of the students we're working with. Can I have some of them ask you questions in this session so that they can get a better feel for the experience that I think that they're going to need in terms of how do they get from where they are to where you've already gotten. This
Absolutely.
is going to be very tangible for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my first questions, I just want to know kind of like the audience, because I know you were talking about, like, you know, the college students and the different universities that they're from. So because this is helpful for Jeff as well, are we operating in terms of we're talking to undergraduate students from like maybe sophomore to senior, or just if you can give me more specific demographics, just so I can make sure I'm targeting that audience and giving them helpful information.
Okay, so part of our cohort are Santa Monica Community College, and two of the students from Santa Monica Community College have already gotten their Bachelor of Arts. They've already graduated and gotten through the 4-year university process, but they come back to the community college to get certifications. Some of them have also gone through the Promo Pathway program, which is a very select apprenticeship program to get really granular. They're a writing, kind of directing, promotion predator system, where people get a chance to produce high-level reels for short-form media. So they are really, again, asserting themselves of all the different academic resources that are out there to get people, you know, kind of in a very competitive advantage to meet some of these opportunities that may, again, you know, provide, you know, some level up of what I think some hires are looking for. But they're coming back to us looking for some other angles and some other people that they have yet to meet. So in a perfect world, I want to be able to make sure that they're able to ask questions, not just, you know, that they can do from the research, but organically questions they may be able to ask of you and get some better understanding of Laugh Out Loud. So the research they're doing is not just from search engine optimization. It's
Gotcha.
just really coming from exchange. So with the time we have remaining, Maya, do you have, I'm just looking at some of the chat. Maya, do you have any questions that can help us with this session and making sure that we're focused? Because I do have a couple of things, some new announcements that I'd like to make to you, Amanda, that have happened. But I'm going to ask Maya before we get to the introductions. Maya, do you have any anything you want to point out?
So
Thing?
sure. So I am trying to think of a way to put this, but I want to make sure that the interview and panel with Jeff goes as smoothly as possible and that he's getting as much out of it as he possibly can. And, you know, I think ideally we want to make sure that we have the audience that he's going to find most appealing. And to be blunt, I don't know that we have that for next week, because I think this, you know, this has sort of been put together, and I personally would prefer to hold off to some degree, which I'm sure sounds like a strange thing to say as we're on this.
Honesty matters. Listen, but I'll say this. From what I hear of the audience, because, and this is something that I just feel as just like a young person myself, like, don't underestimate students. Like, they're the next voice of the future. So this is the audience that Jeff definitely wants to talk to, because at the end of the day, he wants to mentor the next generation. At the end of the day, also, the next generation is going to influence culture and technology and the things that we're watching. So this is an audience that he wants to connect with, because if there's any way he can influence or even just do a give and take conversation with them, that's powerful.